you changed my mind. Lights like starlight through the darkness, you came inside. When I was fighting, looking for something I could not find. You trusted, you believed in me, believe in me. Sometimes the wildest dream becomes reality. With one look, baby, like a book that I find. You help me find the strength inside. All your patience and sweet persuasion, you never lied. When I was hiding from something I never tried. Now everything I used to feel's a memory. Sometimes the wildest dream becomes reality. With one look, eyes like starlight through the darkness, you came inside.
Hello. Unexpected show. 10 minutes ago, I didn't plan to do a stream tonight, but now I'm doing a quick stream. It's 8:25 p.m. Eastern Time. On Sunday, May 11th, again, happy Mother's Day to everyone. This is episode 280.H, and I'm doing it the H for the Housatonic. Chose a song with one look because it was just one look that's all it took to make me want to do this little stream. What a great song. What a great song. I saw on Rumble, Children's Health Defense is continuing to go at it with the promotion of why vaccines don't work. And the newest thing right now is, I just saw it just in there. Yeah, 5 childhood vaccines test positive for glyphosate. So, you see right now, vaccines, we're supposed to focus on the adjuvants. We're supposed to focus on the thimerosal, the mercury, the additives. According to Kevin McKernan of the Human Genome Project, the DNA contamination. We're supposed to focus on the glyphosate. Where do they make these things? It's like every bad thing that you can imagine somehow winds up in a vaccine. And I guess that's one of the reasons why some people feel as though that they should be questioning the safety of vaccines. And by the way, injecting glyphosate or any of these other chemicals, not a good idea. It's not going to help. But will anyone just question the nature of intramuscular injection combined with injecting genetic material? The combination of injection into a muscle plus, and I don't mean just like a skin prick, I mean like into the muscle, plus genetic material is most likely the problem. And there is a potpourri of reasons and excuses being laid out. Now, I'm glad that CHD gave me the opportunity to bring up the glyphosate thing tonight. And this is the trap, okay? We are being baited to focus on the additives, the thimerosal, the mercury, the this, the that, the glyphosate, all this other stuff that goes into these injections. But no one is questioning intramuscular injection other than Jonathan Cooey, PhD, and a couple of people who sent me some very convincing articles Very interesting data charts, which I've not shared yet. No one else is questioning that. And maybe the genetic material. The combination of those two things is the root of it. First off, if you go back far enough in time, you will see that most vaccines before a certain date were not intramuscular injection. I challenge you to start doing a timeline. When did it start when people went into a doctor's office or to get a vaccine and there was a needle to shoot it into the muscle? Smallpox vaccines weren't like that. They would have a wound. It would be mostly into the skin. Now, there were still reactions. However, it wasn't injecting it into the muscle. This phenomenon of wanting to inject it deep into the muscle, I don't even think it's 100 years old. But we're looking at hundreds of years of vaccine data, but the way it's being done now doesn't go back 300-400 years. This is a very important point. And the core of a vaccine isn't all this other junk. It's the genetic material itself. So, to review, my very simple hypothesis regarding September 11th, was there was a plan to use the United States military to be the guinea pigs for DNA vaccines, for the new era of genetic vaccines. And the way they were going to do this was to have a large biological terror attack, most likely in New York City. It was important to do it in the United States precisely because it would be more difficult for the U.S. military to interfere. And I think a lot of people, some people in the military leadership saw this coming. The military soldiers are tracked, and they don't have the ability to say no to vaccines. As this book, Germs, shows us, nonstop talk. Most of the concern about biological terror was about the FDA and about how the old vaccines, the type you inject, and they keep saying those old anthrax vaccines, 6 injections, injection after injection, so bad. And then, of course, they also talk about the contaminants and how people were getting sick from the old anthrax vaccines. Anyways, every excuse in the book, they can't make them fast enough. It was just a series of excuses combined with additional urgency so that DNA vaccines, which weren't able to get over any hurdle before, they even were involved in the death of Jesse Gelsinger in 1999, that with a biological terror attack, it could happen. The U.S. military is then heavily tracked. They could track all the vaccinations. They could track the cancers. And there you go. Because, after all, the money behind this new era of vaccines, it's not really about the vaccines. It's about the Human Genome Project. It's about researching cancer, solving cancer, human augmentation. It is the longest running, most heavily funded scientific endeavor, cross-national, multinational, that civilization has ever participated in. But they couldn't get them approved. FDA was never going to say yes to this stuff. They needed a state of emergency. I suspect that what happened on September 11th, 2001 was several actions which were taken to preempt a planned bioterror attack, which was probably going to happen, I think, either in Thanksgiving of 2001 or possibly during the Winter Olympics. It was going to be one or the other. Something where a large crowds could have been accessible. They could have used crop dusters. And all of this stuff is covered in this book. But up until now, although the book has suggested that there's a new era of vaccines that could someday be available, the book, to be fair, considering what we've read so far, hasn't just called it out, just said it. And what I'm going to show you right now is a page where the book just says it. The book says exactly what my hypothesis is. I swear, I haven't read this page yet, at least up until today. And I also promise you, this page is missing from the narration. The Amazon audiobook absolutely omits this page. So, what does it say? Page 463. I'm going to read the paragraph. Stephen A. Johnston of the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas. He was also a health official at the United States military. Stephen Johnston's work represented a major advance for gene vaccinations, a young field that promised to revolutionize the science of immunization. Remember, this book is printed on September 7th or 9th of 2001. That's the day it's available for sale, just a couple dozen hours before September 11th, 2001. Stephen Johnston's work represented a major advance for gene vaccination, a young field that promised to revolutionize the science of immunization. Traditional vaccines used weakened or killed versions of diseased organisms, or inactivated toxins or proteins from pathogens to give the body's immune systems advance warning of infection in time to build up defenses. Gene vaccines were just bare DNA, often plasmids. By the way, naked DNA is in the title of Robert Malone's patents. This is why Robert Malone is on the stage right now, because Robert Malone knows about 9/11. Robert Malone knows about this technology. He was part of it at Vical Corporation, and Robert Malone is a key part of controlling the narrative now. This is why this book is proof of so many things, because the level of crime that we are talking about here is so magnificent that you just can't pull people into this program willy-nilly. This is why between Robert Malone and Meryl Nass and Stephen Hatfill, and I mean, we're just getting started, Craig Venter and Francis Collins, even possibly even Kevin McKernan himself to some extent, although I don't know how much he knows, and there's many, many more. They all knew that this was the plan. They all knew it. Traditional vaccines use weakened or killed versions of diseased organisms or inactivated toxins or proteins from pathogens to give the body's immune system advance warning of infection and time to build up defenses. Gene vaccines were just bare DNA, often plasmids. Remember, plasmid is a word that was invented by who? By Joshua Lederberg. Lederberg. You say Lederberg, I say Lederberg. He also invented the word microbiome, of which a whole book about the microbiome was just written in 2024 by the current FDA director, Marty Makary. Yes, called
Blind Spots.
Marty Makary knows all about the microbiome and plasmids. He just isn't saying it. Continuing on, when injected into the body and incorporated into cells, the genes expressed a limited set of pathogen parts that were nonetheless sufficient to trigger the immune response. They express a protein. The DNA is used to tell the cell to express a protein. Well, that's interesting. They use the word express. Let's continue on. The approach was like a scalpel. Patients would be injected with precisely what was needed to inoculate them against the disease. Through though experimental, the method showed promise. It could eliminate the risk of infection associated with some live and weakened vaccines. But it gets better, folks. It also could ease production and compliance with federal regulations. In other words, getting rid of the FDA, which is what all these people want to do, the complexities of which have stymied anthrax vaccines for so long. This is why Meryl Nass and everyone else continues to have so much, and Whitney Webb. How much of Whitney Webb's books are focused on greedy Jews being behind the dirty anthrax vaccine factory? It's just bashing and bashing and bashing. And she was brought to the first Children's Health Defense Conference and called a firecracker by none other than Robert Malone. She's part of the narrative control. And it talks about being able to make them faster. This is exactly what I've said. Then it says gene vaccines were chemical, not biological. This cut the chance of contamination and spoilage. That's exactly why Kevin McKernan is involved in COVID-19. DNA contamination, it's contamination. And then Children's Health Defense is running around saying we got glyphosate and we got mercury and all these other chemicals and all it's dirty. You know, everyone, little bit here, little bit there, they're all talking about all the same excuses in COVID-19. and they had to create a massive global pandemic, or the perception of a pandemic. Of course, there are no RNA pandemics, so it's mostly murder and lies, to create the sense of urgency for people to try and adopt the new technologies, which in this case, at least with COVID-19, it was mostly mRNA technologies. There was some DNA or some adenovirus ones. And oh, by the way, again, and this is Jonathan Cooey of GigaHomeBiological.com's thought, most of the COVID vaccines, I'm sorry to say it, were placebos. I don't know what percentage, but this is why many people took those shots and are fine. That most were placebos. Or very, very, very crazy low dosages. If they were all real, it would have been a disaster. But they needed the reaction rate to be so low that people have confidence that they worked more often than not, and that reactions were low. Finally, they were also highly stable. Unlike conventional vaccines that needed refrigeration, gene vaccines could be stored dry or in a solution. Now, this is an interesting part because I remember it's been pushed upon us that the mRNA vaccines needed to be stored at crazy cold temperatures. I'm starting to suspect that the mRNA vaccine platform was never really meant to be the long-term solution. I'm starting to suspect it never was. The refrigeration thing, that story was told over and over again because they wanted us to know that that was going to be one of the reasons why it could fail. DNA vaccines don't have that. This is where it's been leading, and this was the motivation to have this biological terror attack, to stage it. And if it kills a few thousand people, well, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, I guess. The world planners saw this as for the greater good. It's gonna, eventually it's gonna lead to us learning more about the human genome and curing cancers and life extension and everything else. And for people who are really into humans and space travel and everything else, we can't travel to other planets or to the stars if we can't figure out how to master our own biology. So again, they feel as though this is justified. And at the time, in 2001, the only population which could have handled this, or I should say, could have been told you have to take it, and were heavily tracked, was the U.S. military. And this is why I keep going back to how Robert Malone was involved with the United States Public Health Service. He went there in 2000, and they were set up the only center of excellence for the U.S. military, Walter Reed Army Hospital. And they were going to be doing cancer research there. So if there were increased cancers in the U.S. military, possibly because of the use of DNA vaccines, that data would have been shared with the one center of excellence in Windber, Pennsylvania, which, by the way, was only 10 miles away where Flight 93 crashed. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you why September 11th happened right now. Okay? Let go of all of the other crap. Stop talking about hijackers. That's all deception. Hijackers involved or not, okay? That doesn't answer any questions as to the why. Why? Why did it happen? A very simple why. The mechanics, you can get caught up in that and lost. But why? What is something that involves more money and more life and is perceived to be amongst the most important projects, or the most important project that has ever been pursued by all of humankind? Well, that should be pretty much at the top of the list. Now, of course, the U.S. military and other potential other national interests may not like the fact that this puts the nation state at risk. So you could see how maybe several individual nation states might not have liked the fact that something like this was going on. But at the same time, they know it's going to happen one way or the other, but they just don't want this to be happening on the U.S. military as a captive population. So this is happening, but internally there is internal warfare about who's going to be paying this price and who is going to sit at the table of the winner's table when it's all over. there was a massive biological terror exercise and a cleanup exercise in Manhattan, I think on September 10th, 2001. I suspect that the many of the pathogens that were there were actually confiscated and removed. I'm not suggesting that September 11th was an act of heroism. What I'm saying, though, is that you have to see it differently as part of a massive internal warfare for the project of all projects. This page says it. It totally lays out exactly what my hypothesis has been. And somehow or another, InfoWars missed this, Whitney Webb missed this, Fox News missed this, CNN missed this, Newsmax missed this, MSNBC missed this, ABC News, NBC News, all the UK journals missed this, the Chinese news missed this, all news agencies out of Japan have missed this, out of India have missed this, all levels of independent media have missed this. It's sitting right there. It's in PDFs. You can download them and read them. It's right there. And if you just watch my show and if you listen to this series so far, and we're going to be doing over the next couple of days, I'll do the narration for this chapter so you can just listen to it. It's going to be mostly me reading because I think most of this chapter was not part of the Amazon Audible audiobook. They omitted most of this. But you're now at the lead. You're now at the lead. I suspected, I've had greater and greater confidence that this was going to be a big part of the 9/11 story. Yeah, there's a lot of other subplots and, resource battles. There's a lot of other dimensions to it. But I can pretty much summarize it right now, big picture, in a minute. And if it wasn't for the fact that people involved in this are now on the stage now, even in the Trump White House, like with Stephen Hatfill, I wouldn't be 1,000% sure, but I am 1,000% sure right now. So that's my gift to you tonight. Thank you for listening. Thank you for people who support me doing this endeavor. Again, just the operational costs. I keep all my OPEX, operational expenses, listed online publicly. And I don't know what else to say. And thank you to my friend Jonathan Cooey, and also thank you to Joe Marshall lately. It's been really good chats with him as well. I suggest subscribing to his program. He uses a lot of political science words, some of them that are over my head, but this push for global communism, or whatever you want to call it, didn't really have solid legs to support it. I mean, it's been pursued on and off for a long time, but with the prize now being so big, global communism is a big part of making this vision possible and powering the Human Genome Project. And that's why these two things have become strange bedfellows. Global governance, global communism, whatever you want to call it, and this particular project. That is why global governance has taken off, because it has this very much the same, many shared interests and goals with the pursuit of this project. But you know what? It's not the science we're opposed to. It's just how it's happening. Like I said before, I'm not opposed to this particular project. I just want it done out in the open, transparently, and in a way that would make our creator proud. We're not doing that right now, but we're gonna try to find a balance and reconcile things, and I think we can do it. So that's it. That's my Sunday night show, guys. Thank you. Take care. Congratulations to us. Thank you. God bless.